Hi folks, welcome back to the channel. Thank you very much for joining me once again. You are always most welcome. Well, today Kotare are back and it's another Spitfire. Did I ever tell you that I once flew in a Spitfire? This one, in fact. Aubrey St John, who is one of my members and channel supporters, subscriber, he actually just sent a very interesting video because last weekend, as I record this anyway, the last weekend in July, there was a 90th anniversary, I think it was at Old Buckingham, was it? They had this Spitfire celebration for the 90th anniversary of the Spitfire, of course. And the aircraft I flew, I'll show you a bit more of it because I've got my super shirt on with all the details. It was actually featured. There was two of these that had the American Squadron tribute markings, but mine, you see it right there. That was actually. Let's get you the picture of my flight certificate and bore you about it again, once again. Did I ever tell you that I flew a Spitfire? Yes, I really did. And this is the one that was featured. They had the single-seater and they had this, the actual double-seater, flying in this display. So I will actually do, rather than bore you by telling you the whole story again and showing you my flight, I'll actually put you a link to that video. There's actually two videos, and I did see a second one where it does show this in a bit of a close-up. So I'll probably show the second one, no offence to Aubrey, who alerted me to this. First one was very sharp, but he didn't zoom it in much, and the second video I saw, he was standing near the front and he got a really good shot of it taking off. So I'll send you one or both of those. So, see if I can get that to go back in its place. Yes, it has. Anyway, enough of my Spitfire flight. I heard enough about that. It's been going on for nearly a year. Good grief. Anyway, back to Kotare. So they have brought us this wonderful new late variant of the Mk.1a Spitfire from the Battle of Britain. And this is kind of, in my mind, this is the one that I always kind of think of, really, when I think of the Battle of Britain and the Spitfire. Reminds me a little bit of the, I think it's the same one as the OLD Spitfire, the one that got the tribute to, and of course the QV Spitfire also, that squadron, and I can't remember, it'll tell you in a second. What was it? 19 Squadron. They've got a 19 Squadron tribute Spitfire, of course, the one that was rebuilt. I say tribute, but it was in the right markings. The QV one, which is based at Duxford. Anyway, there are a few changes, a few minor changes in this revision during the summer of 1940 when it came out, sort of, I think August, September. Let's have a look at what it says. Now, I just want to say, before we start, elephant in the room here. One, we're not going to get an engine. We won't go on about that, we know that. But the other thing that, I got two of these. I got one for me and one for my brother-in-law. He bought it, he paid for it, but I supplied it for him, and we were talking about the artwork again. Now, I have to say this artwork is a big improvement, I think. Darryl Legg again. He's a good artist, but it's just his use of colour and light, his accuracy and his use of detail is perfect. I just have an issue with his use of light, and they're always dark and down, and I don't think it's helped by the design of Kotare. Two problems here. One, the black surround, and two, the fact that they just fade it in, which makes the picture look darker. I've got a feeling if you saw the original print of that, it wouldn't have this dark edge, and it would actually look a lot more vivid. And I really think that it's almost there, for my satisfaction anyway. It's getting there, getting closer to some of the early ones. I just don't, the very first one I didn't like it at all. I think two of them have really been, I think they're terrible. They're just not light enough, they're not bright enough. They need to dial up the exposure in terms of the painting. Dial up the exposure, dial up maybe the contrast a little bit as well. But it's very close and it's much more dynamic as an artwork. That I like it. I just wish they'd go back to the wingnut wing style, maybe, because they used to have silver, didn't they, foil around, and maybe go to gold. That's what I'd do if I was Kotare. I'd have the gold foil, instead of having this vignette sort of edge, this blurring in of the black. Don't mind the black around the outside, but I don't like it blurring into the photograph. I think it's creating a dark image, and it's making it look more dour, and it's just not a good look. I don't like it at all. And I think the quality of their product is so high, I think it's frustrating that you know. I mean, I'm not even saying in this case that it's the artist is what I'm saying. I'm saying it's their design the way that they are incorporating that art onto the box. Get rid of the blurred edge, guys. It just isn't working for me. But anyway, rant over. Now, obviously it's 32nd scale Spitfire, and we have got a bit to read, so I hope you bear with me. I'll zoom you back. Maybe you can have a look at my Spitfire flight certificate on the wall and imagine what it's like to fly a Spitfire. I don't have to imagine, obviously. Anyway, here we go. The legendary Supermarine Spitfire Mark 1 is undoubtedly one of the most famous aircraft of all time. This was in no small part due to its performance during the Battle of Britain from July to October 1940, where despite being less numerous than the similarly powered and armed Hawker Hurricane, it proved to be the aircraft that captured the imagination of the public. Designed and begun in 1934, and the prototype flew on the 5th of March 1936, 90 years ago, with production aircraft entering service from May 1938. It must have been can you imagine if you were a pilot and they delivered that? You'd never seen it before. You think that it's like being a small boy, all your Christmases and birthdays have come on the same day, you know. God, it must have been quite a shock. You know, probably the most advanced aircraft in the world it was at that moment. Early production Spitfire Mark 1 completed between May 38 and September 1939, the K and L serial numbers were powered by a 1030 horsepower Rolls-Royce Merlin 2 engine, and initially featured the two-bladed pitched propellers, an unarmoured windscreen and a tall untapered aerial post. Numerous improvements, however, were made throughout production, including the 3-blade dual-pitch de Havilland propeller, a taller canopy hood for better visibility, improved armoured windscreen glass, and plating over the upper fuel tank, armour plating. Mid-production Spitfire Mark 1A, completed between September 39 and 1940, the N and P serial numbers, which we've seen before from Kotare, saw the introduction of the improved cockpit door, reflector gun sight, tapered aerial post, voltage regulator positioned behind the pilot's headrest, the constant speed propellers, and, on selected aircraft, a TR-1133 VHF radio. Now, late production, as we have here, the 1A, R6595 to R7022 and X4009 to X4997 serial numbers, they were completed from May 1940 to January 41, okay, as included in this model set. These were produced just in time for the Battle of Britain, comprising of a bulk of new replacement and comprised the bulk of the new and replacement Spitfires delivered to the frontline squadrons during the battle itself. These aircraft saw the introduction of the constant speed de Havilland propeller, armour plates behind the pilot's seat and his headrest, composite plastic seat, and engine-driven undercarriage retraction. Other incremental changes were introduced, such as revised raised rivet radio access door and the elimination of the gauge for the top fuel tank. I think they actually had a gauge in the top of the tank, didn't they? That's what I mean. Fuel pressure gauge, priming cock, and front parachute flare tube. The 1030 horsepower Spitfire Mark 1A was gradually supplanted by the improved 1050 horsepower Spitfire Mark II from late September 1940 onwards, with remaining Spitfire Mark 1A being regulated to training units from the middle of 1941. The Spitfire continued to be improved, and production did not end until 1948. It was in production for, well, that's 12 years, isn't it? Incredible. By which time over 22,000 aircraft had been produced. In 24 variants, with the most notable being the 1030 Mark 1, the 1470 Mark 5, the 1720 Mark 9, and the Mark 14 with 235 horsepower. Also the navalised Seafire Mark 3. I can see Kotare building that and doing that as a subject. I'm sure they're going to do it one day. And there we go. So I'll show you on the side. It shows you nice artwork of the 3 options that come in the kit. I like that history. I think that's absolutely brilliant. It's just right, isn't it? Perfect. One thing Kotare are the undisputed world champions at, better than Tamiya and everybody else, is giving you instructions and history. You know, even better than Tamiya, says it all really. I mean, that makes them absolutely peerless. So what we've got 66 Squadron. We've got 603 Squadron. 603 Squadron. Is that the city of... No, it's not, is it? September 1940. And then we've got Unwin and Lawson both flying this aircraft from 19 Squadron, the QV. And that's in September 40. The height of the battle. Over on the other side, just a load of old lead. Right, without further ado then, I'll try not to complain about the lack of engine, because I've already said that and got that right out of the way, so I won't ramble on, because I know my brother-in-law doesn't agree with me on this, and many of you are the same. It's nice to see on the Thunderbird, obviously there's parts of the engine they have to show really on that, but I do hope that they progress it for the future. Or just produce an aftermarket engine that can fit into this. You know, anyway, I don't mind if they do it as a separate aftermarket thing at all. Let's go. So, what's different? So that's different. Yeah, we've got the different seats, so that's different. And hang on, that's different as well, isn't it? No, this is different. This is the later parts, I think, here, because that's the plastic seat. That's got the flare racks in, which was dropped, so that's not different. That's the original one. Now, this is my own kit, so I now have a stash again. I've got one kit in my stash. Oh no, I lie, because I've had a kit gifted to me, so I've got two kits now in my stash. I've got two kits. How stupid is your stash? Well, mine isn't stupid at all. Unless you count the 400 down in the expensive storage unit down the road. Anyway, well, let's get this out. Let's get the plastic out and let's have a look at the glorious instructions, and we know they're going to be glorious. I know this is going to be 10 out of 10. This is weird, isn't it? I know what the answer is going to be, unless something is a train crash and some horrible quality problem. This is going to be 10 out of 10, and it's very rare that you open a kit knowing the outcome before you actually look at it. Did I ever tell you that I once flew in one of these Spitfires? I actually took the controls. Let he else who has flown one cast the first stone of criticism for me taking my hands off the sticks. Oh, did I mention that? There's a half second of confusion where I did this. My wife laughs about this. Well, he said, don't keep pulling up elevators so much. You don't need to do that when you're banking. Which I thought was odd actually, but anyway, because I think it's fairly normal. But apparently in the Spit you don't need to do that. And I went, oh! And it was just like an instant reaction, and I thought, you're flying the plane, grab the controls again. So it was like, look Ma, and there's a photo, I did a still, which I sent to my wife, and she was roaring with laughter. It was like, look Ma, no hands. This is not the way you're supposed to fly a Spitfire, and you definitely wouldn't get a pilot's licence by doing tricks like that. It was a bit of a miscommunication. I thought he was telling me off and he'd taken control, you see. I have to say though, on that particular aircraft, that the intercom wasn't great. I don't know whether it was something to do with the setup on the day or not, but it wasn't that brilliant. It wasn't that brilliant. The intercom, yeah, could have been a lot better. Right, I'm going to actually open. I'm not going to open all the bags, but I'm going to open some, and I'm going to do the markings because I think that's important. I think that's really important. Let's have a look at these. I think they are cartograph. What's in C? Yeah, printed by Cartograph in Italy. So they're going to be absolutely good. Oh, yes. Oh, there's actually, is that a scratch? Is that a scratch? Let's have a look. Here we go. Look at that. It's just massive. Is that actually damage? Or no, it's not. It's where there's some. It's not damage. It's some lettering that's on it. I think it's where they have near where they have the radio door. And the same here. You've got cut out for the ejector chutes for the guns. But this is very detailed and clever the way they've actually formatted these. And there's absolutely minimal extra carrier film. There's no shadow or halo around them. They're really nice. Look at the gun ports, yeah, all the little gun covers, canvas covers that goes over the gun ports, and then you've got all of your your many stencils down the bottom as well. So those are really very nice indeed. So far so good. That's 10 out of 10 for the markings for sure. Be interesting to see whether they all use the underwing roundel or not. That will be interesting to see, because sometimes they didn't this time in the Battle of Britain. Let's have a look then. All will be revealed. Now, I'm not going to read through this again because you've got the gist of it already. So we know what the differences are. Here we go, look at this. It's the beauty of the detail and the effort they make, really, and the colouring. So you know what the colours should be. Yeah, not like a border kit where you're like a guessing game, literally. You've no idea what anything's supposed to be. Here, they tell you what the colours should be, but they also show you graphically in colour. So you've got all the cockpit interior, shows you all the things you need to paint up. Isn't it glorious? Absolutely. I mean, these guys are the best in the world for this. I don't think anybody can do instructions anything like Kotare, really. Tamiya come a poor second. And they're good, but they do insist on black and white, don't they, in most of their instructions, which still annoys me, I've got to say. If I could change one thing about Tamiya, I'd forgive the staples if they put a bit of colour in their instructions. I don't really forgive the staples. Anyway, I don't like the staples. They don't belong anywhere near plastic models, especially clear parts. So you've got your instrument panel, and it's the later type one, slightly later, I should say. And then you've got to build up all your cockpit floor, of course, and your rudder pedals, assembly, actuation system. And then you've got all of your stick, pilot's armour plating detail. The very pale appearance, which was possibly the painted aluminium, raw aluminium. Look at that. Yes. You can see it here. It looks very light because it's silver, basically. But it's better than what they had at the start of the battle, and they didn't have any, you know. Very strange that they didn't incorporate that. I just think that they thought it was going to be so superior. A bit like the Zero, isn't it? Zero was worse. It didn't have any armour plate. It had a seat with holes in it. I mean, no chance if they came against another fighter. Anyway, here's your armour plate. Right, big chunky armour plate that goes behind the pilot's seat. Look. And you can see this is the plastic seat. So there's two versions here. There's the flare rack. I think it depends on which option you go for. You can have the flare rack version or the non-flare rack version, but I thought the later ones generally didn't have the flare rack, it's what it said. Composite plastic seat and armour plate from the late version. Note the outside face of the seat is painted interior grey down the sides. Oh yeah. And the armour plating is very dark, almost certainly night black. Okay. Wow, look at that. And then we've got, now remember I've been in one of these cockpits in the air, upside down, doing barrel rolls, victory rolls. So it's all very familiar to me. Remote control, wireless radio remote control. Yeah, I didn't get to operate that, of course. And here, the undercarriage control unit. Wow. Wireless box. Frame for the wireless box. Wow, at the back, that's cool, isn't it? Look at that. Never seen that before. They really go into detail, Kotare, don't they? Beautiful. Drill holes for more detail. Oh, I don't like that. I don't like this having to drill extra holes. And of course, you have to do that with the surround. Yes, here, which I skipped over, which I really should point out. Now, I'm not convinced they couldn't produce the kit with the holes done. Slightly irritates me this. I don't think I'll mark them down for it because it's such a small thing, but it's something that they could work on for the future. You know, with the modern slide moulding, I can't believe that the Chinese moulder can't produce that with the holes already in it, really. Anyway, then we've got some rigging for all the control surfaces, connection points. Goes off to the elevator rudder and the ailerons, of course. And then over here, fuselage interior. Pop it in your fuselage tub, so to speak. And then you've got, you're just going to be tricky, a bit tricky on these Kotares. Is the only thing you've got to be wary of if you've not built one before. Well, like me actually, because I'm definitely going to do it. Might do the Brian Lane one actually. Oh, this maybe. Maybe do this actually, you know. Might build this quite seriously. In the not too distant. In other words, in about 15 years. But I quite fancy this one. To me, it's the absolute typical Spitfire from the Battle of Britain. But you've just got to be careful that these interior cockpit walls have got all this detail already moulded in them, so you've got to be very fine with your painting. So if you're not a great painter, that put you off a little bit, but if you take your time, it saves a lot of assembly. But they are very much a painter's model, aren't they, these Kotare kits, I think, which is what I am really. If you wanted to classify me as what type of modeller, are you a builder? Do you like scribing and riveting? No, not really. I don't. I like to add my painting skill into the kit and try and make it pop that way, you know. Rather than getting a winner's cup for building an unbuildable kit, like Kinetic Sea Harry. Oh, I said it, didn't I? And by the way, just going off the subject, Neil from Creative Time Wasting has sent me a kinetic kit to review. Well, that's a poison chalice, isn't it? I think he's trying to say, you know, keep an open mind. I won't say what it is, I won't spoil it for you, but yeah, that's going to be interesting because obviously me and them have got some history, yeah? Anyway, back to Kotare. No problems like that here. Just be wary that you've got to paint these side walls and there's a lot of tricky, fine detail painting. Then, over here, we've got this very clever spine piece that goes on the top so you don't have a silly join with a seam line down the top like we normally get, which is great. A good design from Kotare, that brilliant. You've got the GM2 Mark II reflector gun sight. You've got all the detail in the ends of the horizontal stabilisers, which is quite cool. And then you look at this, they're actually rearming the guns here. And it says from 21st of September 1940, the B camouflage scheme. The B camouflage scheme. In other words, what do they mean by B? I think they mean that it's got the small roundels and it's got the sky all the way across underneath. So heavily stained Browning gun access panels. Heavily stained. Heavily stained? I can't really see that. See the staining from the guns underneath? Heavily stained gun access panels. I can't see the staining myself. Am I missing something here? Blast damaged linen patches over the gun ports. Well, they would be, wouldn't they? Let's zoom in a bit more for this. I think you need to see this. It's quite important. Perhaps with the zoom you might see more than I'm seeing with my naked eye. So you can see where the guns have fired and blasted the canvas patches open, which is what they're intended to do, of course. I do wonder if canvas was the best material, because you can see there, can't you, even from that photo, that when it frays it away, it's quite draggy, I imagine, on the leading edge. I bet they couldn't have put some sort of, I don't know, something a bit finer perhaps, something maybe like a plastic film. Perhaps it wasn't available then, but it just seems a bit raggedy and a bit rough and a bit draggy to have that flapping about in the breeze, you know. Starboard replacement wheel. Night black painted starboard wheel, almost a replacement from the port side from an earlier production aircraft. So it looks like they've swapped and chopped and changed the wheel around and got a spare from an earlier aircraft. Yes, you can tell that. Wouldn't normally be black, would it? And then over here we've got, zoom back. And over here we've got our elevators going in. Shows the elevator trim tab here. And then further down, got some nice pictures here. Flaps are down. Now we talked about this on my flight, didn't we? Where you can see the actuator flap lever arm that pops up. It's A, to give it room in the wing, which it hasn't got room for the actuation arm, and B, it's also a physical indicator to the pilot that the flaps are down, which is quite useful. It leaves you no doubt. And I'll tell you something, when those flaps pop down, boy, does the nose dip. Look at that. I felt nothing from the undercarriage going up and down, but when those flaps came down, it's like hitting a brick wall almost. It's incredible. Here we've got the late production version again, the B scheme, which I think is the nicer scheme. Wingtip steadying trestle. Yeah, it's talking about all the different stencils underneath. Shows here the detailed look of the actual bay and how, which should be painted in the sky and which should be painted in the aluminium colours, which is cool. Here you've got your gun port exits, gun barrels basically, muzzles, Browning 303. That's nice, isn't it? Haha. Building up your wing, putting the top wing on, painting your lights, putting your fillets in. Big aerodynamic thing on the Spitfire, of course, the fillets. The ailerons on these are still fabric covered, of course. Stencil detail there as well. Radiator and the oil cooler. A bit like me talking about my Porsche in that recent video, wasn't it? About the various radiators. I'm still a bit confused about that, but anyway, because there's nothing to tell you actually. This doesn't tell you a lot of detail in the manual, but anyway. Here we've got the chin cowling going on, and you can see there the fastener rivets, the quick release fasteners that they have. Whoops. And then we get onto the gear undercarriage, and just telling you here, all painted in the underside colour. So the struts, okay, the strut itself and the inner doors, the door covers, they're all painted in sky basically. This sky, isn't it? I'm right in saying that. Does it mention the colours at the front? Pay attention to that. Mint green, matte, metallic, sky, yeah. Yeah, I'm right, it is sky. Just wanted to check in case I got it wrong. And then it shows you the angles, how to align it all when you put the gear on and the wheels on. Oh, there's KLB, look, it's Al Deer's plane. Alan Deer, 30 times, flown 30 times between 11th of July 40 and the 31st of August. Before it was destroyed by bomb damage. On the ground, I didn't know that. Oh, that's interesting. Obviously that's when it was still going for the airfields at that point. Got the Rotel constant speed propeller. Yeah, and it's got the port wheel and undercarriage door, factory painted sky type. So that is the aircraft, of course, at the Battle of Britain Memorial flight, the 1A that they've got. That is the tribute colours that they've got their aircraft in currently. And then we've got the de Havilland, the DH5/39 spinner and propeller, and some bit of detail around that there. And then you've got this the later type aerial post, tapered aerial post, for the two types, in fact, for the two options here. And we've got our exhausts. Cut and drill for more detail. Well, that's a little bit of a blow. I don't think you need to worry about that though, because it's such a fine exit on these Mark 1s anyway. It would have been nice if they'd have provided like a resin set for that though, wouldn't it? Yeah, maybe have a resin option like they often do with the new launches on these kits. I've got a feeling they did that though already, didn't they, on some of the earlier launches? Was it? There was one or two where there was a resin option exhaust. I think you could probably buy one if you really want to. But anyway, then we've got the rear view mirror on top of the front of the windscreen here. Very important in the Battle of Britain, of course. Absolutely essential. And then we're getting into the doors and how the after window, which has the radio gear behind it, doesn't it? Shows the angle that the door should open at. Certainly much more. Look at that with his foot on it. Oh, it's a much bigger door than the one I had in the two-seater, I'll tell you, which was literally the size of a normal house letterbox. I'm not exaggerating. It was absolutely crazy. I thought, that's a door. How's that going to help me get out? Jeez, you know. And I had visions of just getting stuck. Yeah, and I really do think. I mean, I'm a slightly medium to bulky chap, but I think you'd have to be a tiny little jockey to jump out of that clean in that plane. Let me put it this way, when they showed the training video, they didn't actually show him jumping out through that recess. They just showed him saying, you dive like this, you dive like... It doesn't show him actually exiting the plane though. No, it doesn't. There's a reason for that. And actually that chap was quite a tall, he was slim, but he was very tall. Anyway, it shows all these details in great photographs here. Over here, what have we got? Brian Lane. Where's Brian Lane? Oh yes, you can tell Brian Lane, you can always tell him. He's sitting with the dog, I think. Yes. Yeah, the dog. They used to call him Grumpy Lane. He's got the Alsatian with him, look. And the other dog is called Ranji, the dog with Francis Binden. So this is Brian Lane's squadron then, yeah? Okay. Wow, so you can do another Brian Lane, actually. You could do, couldn't you? Play around with some decals. And then there's rigging. Oh, rigging. No, that's not cool. Shows how it goes into the post on top of the rudder. Wow. That's quite good the way they show the detail though, isn't it? At least it's not rigging like a biplane, eh? Then we just get our guide for all the stencils, of which there are quite a few on a spit, of course. And then we get into these lovely pictures that they do at the end. Look at that. It's got the ground crew actually wearing a steel helmet in the cockpit. Can you see that? It's obviously because they're under constant aerial attack from the German bombers. So he's actually got a steel helmet on. Amazing. And then we get into the colour call-outs. I won't dwell on these too long, but basically, yeah, you get some beautiful detail here. And this is where Kotare are the champs, because they give you all the background to the aircraft. I mean, if only the likes of Connecticut would be able to do that with the Sea Harriers, which they thought they'd done, but they got it all wrong, of course. A real mix-up with at least half the data was muddled and confused and just incorrect. Here, you just don't get those issues. They research it to death, these guys. And this is why Kotare offer that extra bit of value. If you just want a kit, Kotare might not be for you if you want a simple Spitfire kit. But if you want to have an immersive experience and learn about it, and really get a history lesson, which is what I enjoy personally, these are the kits for you. They just go, not the extra mile, but like the extra 10 miles. Look at that detail. Fantastic about each aircraft and how it was operated. There's a nice photo here. Talking about all the details about the stenciling and the access door for the radio. Really, really good. There's a pilot there, looks like a pilot, and he's obviously had a head wound. Can you see that? He's got bandages on his head. Wow. What's it say about that? Oh, it's captured by the Germans, that's why. I think that's the pilot who's captured. The Germans are asking him basically, how do you switch this off and blah blah blah. I think that's pretty much what's going on here. Wow. Poor chap. Obviously captured prisoner of war. And then there's QV. This is the one that's on the artwork, box art. And look at this picture with the dog. Look, sitting on the top. That's incredible. Unwin's dog. So this is George Cecil Grumpy Unwin. It was Unwin that was called Grumpy, not Brian Lane. Born in Yorkshire in 1913. That's his dog, Flash. Look at that. Isn't that brilliant? Ah. Unwin exiting the cockpit after a sortie, it says here. Yes, he doesn't smile a lot, does Unwin? Grumpy Unwin. Some great photographs. Now look at this. Absolutely brilliant. Let's go back a bit. Look at that. Huh. Kikiyu Embu, this one was called. So it's obviously one of the Kiwis, I think, that's flying that one. Here they're rearming the guns. And here they're just steadying the wing as he taxis out gently. Just making sure the thing doesn't tip on some rougher ground, I think. Falmere, September 1940, QVI. Isn't that fantastic? Look at that, there's some great photos in here. And this is almost worth the money. You know, it's in retail about £9,500. Worth the money, isn't it? Just for the instruction book, frankly. Almost. It's almost like the kit's a bonus. Look at that, giving the thumbs up. And then finally, what's going on here? Engine starting plug door being held open by the airman in the foreground. The engine starting plug, that's where they plug the starter in, obviously, yeah. And then it just has a very brief thing. They've stopped showing photographs of their guys, which is a bit of a shame, but apart from that, what a wonderful experience that is. And if you've already got one of these Spitfires from Kotare, I think you're going to want this, because it's such a typical example of the height of the Battle of Britain. It makes you want to have it, doesn't it, really? Well, there you go. Right, let's just have a look. I'm not going to open every bag, but one or two I may open. Those things that I think are going to be different. Again, we've got this, just got this wonderful moulding that's as good as anything you'll ever see, frankly. Right up there with Tamiya and ICM. And some very clever stuff going on in terms of the things like the spine here to avoid the seam on the top of the fuselage. Absolutely fantastic, really. That one we've seen before, though. I don't think there's any changes there. And then the wing certainly doesn't feature any changes. Typical Spit wing. Yeah, very beautiful, complete with its separate fillets here. And your ailerons, which remember are actually fabric covered ailerons. Whoops. Zoom back in a bit. Very, very nice. And over here, yeah, again, I don't think there's any special different parts. Remember, it comes very nicely with these lovely weight on wheels tyres. So you can see that the tyres have got a flat spot underneath them. Apart from that, I don't think there's any changes there. Oh, no. Everything's pretty standard on that. I think it comes down to these ones I've got in my hand that's different, actually. Where we've got the different seat. And I'm going to open this. And we're going to open the clear parts. Anything else? I'm going to open this one as well. So these are the ones I'm going to open, because I think this is where the variations occur. So let's have a little look. It's got the aerial post in here as well. There's sort of lots of incremental changes going on. They haven't done this very straight, have they? That's strange. So this has got the options of the seats, and it's always a joy to handle. It's just like Wing Not Wings again, isn't it? You know. So this is the option that has got the flare rack in the bottom of the seats, which is one of the options. Although I thought generally that they'd gone to the, as the description said, generally they dropped the flare racks for the later model that came out in the summer, 40. But over here you can see what I was describing earlier about the detail that's already, everything is moulded into the side. So you've just got to be very, very careful with your painting. This is why some people prefer to paint the parts. I must admit, I normally prefer to paint them first and then apply them all in, you know, as an assembly. But it's, for me personally, it wouldn't be a major challenge. Just requires a lot of care when you're painting it up. Here we've got the de Havilland, the later de Havilland spinner and prop, unlike the earlier Rotal one. I think that's the main points on this version. Let's B, Mark 1, Mark 2. Okay. Oh. This we know is the late, this is definitely the late, it even says it on the actual sprue, so we know that this is very germane, and why we have to open it, it's the important one. So this is completely different parts. So here we've got the plastic seat, the later plastic seat, which does not have the flare rack on it. So there's no flare rack this time, and it's got with or without the moulded seat belts. This is the revised raised rivet radio door. See the raised rivets on it? There we go. Ah, that's really nice, isn't it, actually? Camera picking up, yeah, there we go. That's nice, isn't it? And there's the radio set, the later radio set that we're using, the VHF set, which fits into that special mounting bracket. You see here, you've actually got the flare rack here as a separate piece if you want to put them on the seat. But it's not a given that they were used. They often weren't. It didn't come as standard. I think if they wanted to use them, they had to fit them, you know, at the airfield or whatever. It's just obviously it's the worry about you getting dumped in the channel, isn't it? You might need to have flares to attract a RNLI rescue boat. And here's the slightly revised instrument panel, and the pedals themselves for the rudder pedals. Yeah, so that's very nice. So this is distinctive for this particular variant, which is very nice, that I've got to say. And actually the clear parts are in fact the same, they're not changed at all. However, it will have, will it or will it not have the armour plate? Yeah, it does have the armour plate anyway, because it says on the actual, wait a minute, I can't get in. It says on the sprue Mark 1, Mark 2, so the actual physical armour plating didn't change. It's basically the Mark 2 had the same armour plating when they brought that out a few months later. We'll have a look at it anyway, because it's always nice to, especially when we on this channel we talk a lot about ICM's superiority in this area, where I think they are the finest of the lot. Got to give them credit though at Kotare, they're right up there with them, aren't they, really? It's not an easy thing, the Spitfire canopy, and they've done it beautifully. Look at this. So, Kotare. Yeah. And then here we go. Very, very nicely done. And there's the big armour plated windscreen. The great chunk of armour plating on the front of it. It's thick, isn't it? In real life it's about 3 inches thick, I think. It's not 3 inches? Yeah, I reckon it is. 2.5, 3 inches at least, I reckon. And they've done that really well. And then you've got the closed option where the whole thing is moulded as one. Or obviously you've got the open version, sliding canopy here and the rear window here. Beautiful, beautiful kit. Yeah. And as I say, this to me is the Battle of Britain Spitfire that I think of. The late version, the sort of September 1940, August, September, that's the one that springs to my mind straight away. A must-have kit then. Must-have kit. If you love the Battle of Britain, if you love the Spitfire, like me, did I ever tell you, etc, etc, etc. Oh, wearing this joke out a bit now. Then you really need to get that kit because it's such a beauty, such a beauty. I'm just going to double check before I put it away. Just going to do a double check to make sure that there weren't any. Yeah, I am right. The other parts were generic from the other kit. So, yeah, there is the unique one is this sprue, and that only, in fact, because the others are just Mark 1, Mark 2, which we have seen. So, what do we think? Well, you know the answer before I even start. It's a 10 out of 10. It's absolutely 10 out of 10. The only irritations, which were tiny, tiny things really, and not really fair to mark it down for, was that they didn't drill out the holes on those, you know, the framework behind in the cockpit behind the seat for the pilot, and a lot of other manufacturers don't at this scale either. I think they could do it though. I mean, at 48 scale, I'd understand it better. At 32nd scale, I think it could be done. It's something in the future I'd like to see them make sure that they get their injection moulder to do things like that, because you can't. It's the same with the Thunderbolt and what that's like. That'll be interesting to compare. But I'm not going to get churlish about it. They've got the most wonderful decals, the most wonderful instructions, and the most wonderful plastic. What else can you want? Yes, I've got a little tiny begrudging moan about this black vignetting blurred, which I think makes it too dark. I think if they lifted it and put Kotare, even if they want to put it in their corporate colour, that's fine. How about some foil though? That would help lift this. Gold around here, a bit of silver or their own colour. It's like a purpley grey, isn't it? Fine. I don't mind them having their own choice, or all, but it just lacks a bit of Hollywood. It's not punchy enough. It's too dour, I think. I think it makes them all look like a Mr. Turner painting. A bit dark and a bit down. I think that's something they can improve in the future. But it's still a beautiful picture. It really does. You know, you've got the 109E here. Is just engaging, and there's a Dornier down there. Clearly, there's a huge furball firefight going on up there. So actually, it's one of the better box arts, I think. So please just hear the constructive criticism, Kotare, and keep improving. But still a 10 out of 10. Absolute knockout kit. Worth every penny. 100 quid. Yes, I'd like to see an engine. But that would make it 120, wouldn't it, anyway? I think at £100, I think it's great value, to be honest. And if you can get it for less, you get it for 90 or even less, then it's fantastic, you know. Well done, Kotare. So that's that one. That's the Battle Britain. I thought it was very appropriate. 90th anniversary of the Spitfire this summer. You know, some of us have really, you know, celebrated that in a big way this year. I'm trying to make you feel bad, really. But maybe if you can't afford, or you haven't got the time or the inclination or the money to spend on flying around in real Spitfires, this will do very nicely indeed. And I would settle for that, no problem. So, well done, Kotare. On their other products that are coming through, we have got the Hurricane. There's been some delays going on compared to what they told me, certainly at Telford, because I was advised that the Hurricane would be out July, August. Looks like it's going to be more nearer to Telford. And the 109, they said, could be Telford or Christmas, but probably Telford. No, that's not going to happen. Then they've now announced on the website it's going to be next summer. So perhaps there's been, you know, issues with the problems in the Middle East and things, and supply problems, and maybe some design issues. I don't know, because we know that they did have a few troubles with the Mark V Spitfire. He told me that they had multiple goes at it to try and get some of the detail right on. I think it's the bulges on the cannon bulges on the wings weren't quite right, and Kotare kept sending it back to China saying it's not right. So, you know, these things take time to get it spot on. It's better that they take the time than rush it. There's the living proof. That's a gorgeous kit. That's a gorgeous kit. Very tempted to build that. It's got to happen one day. There you go. Anyway, thank you for joining me. Hope you found it interesting and enjoyable. I say it's a must-have kit, really. I think that most people will, even if you've got enough Spitfires. You know, 90th anniversary. It's the summer of, you know, I've had a long hot summer, just like the summer of 1940, and it just makes you feel, yes, I think that would be a really nice kit to have, actually. So, get your hand in your pocket. Anyway, thank you very much for joining me. Don't forget to give us a like, give us a thumbs up. We need all the likes we can get. And if you haven't subscribed to me already, please do. Maybe even more importantly, please subscribe to my second channel, Peter Goes Rogue, where we've recently been looking at, we've been looking at Porsches this time, we've been looking at car shows, we've even had Woody Woodpecker attacking our lawn for an hour. It was here for exactly an hour in our garden. It was unprecedented. And you can see from the video him pecking away at it. Anyway, digressing. But we need more subscribers on that channel. We haven't got 900 yet, and I need 1,000. Otherwise, I don't get paid. I don't get anything from that channel. And in some respects, I probably put as much effort, if not more, into it as I do into this. And I get absolutely no reward whatsoever. So please give us your subscription. It costs you nothing, and normally ever do. Just subscribe to the channel, Peter Goes Rogue. There's a link underneath this video in the description just below, and really appreciate it. And I do appreciate all your time watching this. So thank you very much for joining me. Until next time, stay well, stay safe, stay cool. If it carries on cooling off here, I might even put the jacket back on, yeah? Because it has cooled off a little bit. Anyway, I look forward to seeing you in the very near future. Till then, thanks a lot, and bye for now.